What up, y'all? It is your boy Darius, and I'm back, y'all. So we have a video we're gonna react to, y'all. This one says every Eminem album ranked. So, cause Eminem got some good albums, though, some good classic albums, though. So let's check this out, see what he ranked these albums. So let's check this out, y'all. Let's get it.
Ain't it? Like, for real? When I heard your last, I thought that shit was AI.
I have made albums that definitely probably would not be the top of my list. Encore,
Okay.
Relapse, which I believe Encore is a better album than Relapse, and I always say that.
Yeah, I always want to know why Eminem thinks Encore was better than Relapse. I don't know. I'll have to ask Eminem that question though. I feel like Relapse was better than Encore, in my opinion, though.
If it wasn't for Relapse, I wouldn't have been able to make Recovery, and if it wasn't for Revival, I wouldn't have been able to make this album.
So yeah, it is the death of Slim Shady.
With the release of Eminem's new album, The Death of Slim Shady,
Love the
I
album.
decided to rank all the solo projects in M's catalog in a tier list from best to worst, with S tier being the best and D tier the worst. And we will do this in chronological order, starting with the debut album Infinite, which was released in 1996.
And was the Infinite wasn't that supposed to be like an independent album? Because I believe his first album, the Slim Shady EP, was his debut album. I could be wrong though.
This album wasn't strong enough to be taken seriously by the industry. A lot of M fans skip it, or worse, don't even know about it, or don't even care to check it out. It's not even on streaming and only sold around 1,000 copies, which is of course a commercial flop, especially for a white rapper. He hadn't found his own style yet and tried to sound like a mix of Nas, AZ, and Master Ace. Most of the songs here are forgettable. I would be shocked if M ever performed these on stage. 11 tracks, 8 of which I don't really care about. Just mediocre and nothing special. The ones I do like are Open Mic, Tonight, and Infinite. Although none of these tracks are worthy of being in the top 50 for the best Eminem songs. The peaks on this album aren't strong enough. The beats aren't terrible, but they're not good either. I do appreciate the wordplay and punchlines and the display of his raw rapping skills, but the album lacks character and flavor. The casual M fan won't really like this album, as it's lacking all the things his fans love him for. This is the least Eminem-sounding M album in his catalog, due to the fact that he hadn't really found his own sound and style yet. Hardcore M fans might find this album.
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot.
Album as a breath of fresh air, but this would be at the bottom of my recommendation list for people who are trying to get into his music. For casual M listeners, this one is probably a skip. Me personally, I've been listening to M for over 25 years, and I don't really like going back to this album. That being said, it's not worse than B tier. Not a bad album, but it ain't groundbreaking either. Next we have the Slim Shady LP. Now this one is a classic.
Absolutely.
Released in 1999, following M's recruitment by Dr. Dre. It was the first commercial success on Aftermath Entertainment, selling over 14 million copies worldwide. It's a major improvement compared to his debut album Infinite, featuring beats by Dre, more storytelling, the distinct M sound everybody loves him for, also introducing the world to his alter ego Slim Shady, moving more in the direction of horrorcore while featuring cartoonish depictions of violence and heavy use of profanity, but he's also funnier and more entertaining overall. A lot of the lyrics on here are satirical and comedic, but he also has deep, personal, and emotional tracks on here like Rock Bottom, which is actually one of my favorite M tracks of all time, rapping about his frustrations of living in poverty and the struggles of raising a little girl under those conditions. On this album, he mentioned his daughter Haley and his ex-wife Kim a lot actually, and his fans really loved how he opened up and put his insecurities on display. He rapped about his fears and frustrations, which made him more relatable. People always say that Pac made it cool to rap about your demons, your personal life, your weaknesses and fears. They say that he was one of the first and most popular rappers doing it, allowing the audience to connect with the artist on a deeper level. And M managed to do it in his own way. You can see that Pac was a big influence for him, although he sounds nothing like him. Nothing was bitten, everything was original and unique. And that's why this album is regarded as one of his best pieces of work. And of course, sonically, it's top tier, with songs like My Name Is, which I remember seeing on MTV back when it first came out, Guilty Conscience, where he's going back and forth with Dre. Brain Damage, If I Had, 97, Bonnie and Clyde. Role Model, Rock.
Yeah, I gotta react to 97 Bonnie and Clyde. I'm surprised I haven't did that one yet. So I definitely gotta react to that though.
Bottom, Just Don't Give a F, Bad Meets Evil, which is a collaboration with the rapper Royce the 5'9", with whom he later did a collab album together, and Still Don't Give a F. Those are just some of the tracks I love on this album. Oh, and also Get You Mad, which they put on the bonus CD. It was actually a Sway and Tech song, but I think it's a great addition to the album. The Slim Shady LP is obviously going into S tier. It's a hip-hop classic.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
year later, he then dropped probably his best album to date, the Marshall Mathers LP.
Love that
It's
album.
the 5th fastest selling album of all time. The #1 in hip-hop. 1.78 million albums in the first week alone.
Damn.
He took over the game and became one of the biggest artists of the 2000s,
Yeah.
selling over 35 million copies worldwide. This guy has more diamond plaques than most rappers have platinum and gold plaques. It's insane. The Marshall Mathers LP is a more personal and emotional record compared to the Slim Shady LP,
Yeah.
which meant that the millions of fans who ran to the record stores to buy his albums could relate to him, feel his pain and struggles, and connect with him even more now. He even has a song on here called Stan, where he tells the story of a fan named Stan who's obsessed with M, to the point that he actually kills himself, his girlfriend, and his unborn due to M not returning his letters. M had just reached that level of success where people would lose their minds and do everything just to breathe the same air as him. The word Stan not only became a hip-hop term for an extremely obsessed fan, but is also used outside of the culture. Even those who aren't even hip-hop fans started to use it. But yeah, he had those deep and emotional stories, but also those cartoonish and horrorcore-style rap songs that people loved on the previous album. It also contains 3 top 4 Eminem tracks of all time, namely Stan, The Way I Am, and The Real Slim Shady.
Yeah.
Those are widely regarded as the strongest tracks. It also has bangers like Kill You, Remember Me, I'm Back, Marshall Mathers, Drug Ballad, Amityville, Bitch Please Part 2 with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Exhibit, and Nate Dogg, Kim. Yes, I like the song. The Kids, Under the Influence, Criminal. I think I named like every goddamn song on the album. But it's peak Eminem, so what do you expect? I remember seeing The Real Slim Shady on MTV when it first came out.
Yeah.
Would always get excited when they played his songs. I mean, I was still a kid. His music videos were always hilarious. That whole era with Missy Elliott and Ludacris was truly special. They always had the best music videos in the game. But anyway, Marshall Mathers LP obviously in S tier, right in front of the Slim Shady LP. Better production and better songs. Then we get to the Eminem Show, which was released 2 years later in 2002. Sold around 1.3 million copies in the first week,
Yeah.
and 38 million copies in total.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think the Eminem Show is Eminem's best work, in my opinion, though. That's one of my favorite albums, so.
It's M's most successful album to date. 2002 might have been Eminem's strongest year. I still remember those days. He also released the movie 8 Mile that same year, which came with a great movie soundtrack that got sold almost 20 million times. It also has his best song on it, Lose Yourself, and tons of other bangers I wished he added to the Eminem Show. It would have probably been his best album if he had done so. Putting his best song ever on a soundtrack was a bold move. I mean, it became M's first Billboard Hot 100 #1 single, and it went like 13 times platinum. Imagine excluding it from the album. I used to get goosebumps every time they played the music video on MTV.
Oh, yeah.
That intro with the piano where they show the streets of Detroit still sends shivers down my spine. It's a masterpiece and worked so well with the movie. Had he put the songs Lose Yourself, Love Me, 8 Mile, and Rabbit Run on the Eminem Show, it would have definitely been a top 10 hip-hop album of all time. I mean, it is still one of the best projects ever, but it could have been even better, as he could have cut down the fats, removed the filler, and replaced them with more meaningful and sonically pleasing tracks. Because this was when people started to say things like, M is running out of things to say, which is of course pure hate and a cheap attempt to discredit him. This is clearly his 3rd classic in a row.
Yep.
Some people don't want to give him that. They say things like, M only has 2 classics. Some even say he only has 1. And those who can't stand him at all say he has none.
That's
Which
false.
is crazy. All 3 albums are classics. I don't get where all the hate comes from.
Me either.
There's dope tracks on here like White America, Business, which is insanely underrated. Cleaning Out My Closet, one of the hits and my absolute favorites. Square Dance, Soldier, another super underappreciated track. Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Without Me, which is probably a top 5 M song. Sing for the Moment, top 10.
One of my favorites.
Superman was dope too. Haley's song. Then we have When the Music Stops with D12, Till I Collapse with Nate Dogg, which is definitely a top 10 track. And I also like the bonus track, Stimulate. Man, this album would have been his best if he hadn't put some of his best songs on 8 Mile. Still S tier, better than the Slim Shady LP, but slightly inferior to the Marshall Mathers LP. Mainly due to the filler tracks he could have replaced. But I wouldn't be mad at people for putting the Eminem Show over the Marshall Mathers LP. You can argue that the production on here is better, but it's less personal and deep. What I also didn't like is that M started to give away his best beats, like for example the ones he produced himself. The song My Name, which landed on Exhibit's album Man vs. Machine. Rap Name, which he gave to Obi Trice, Patiently Waiting, which he gave to 50 Cent, and tons of others. It wasn't really much of a problem with this album since M was still in his prime and could make bangers
Oh my god. That was really inappropriate. I have to.
as effortlessly, but it became a problem with his next album, which is Encore, released in 2004. This is where he started to make a whole bunch of terrible decisions that really decreased the quality of his albums. He used to give away his beats to other rappers out of love and respect. And he himself would add nonsense and filler to the album thinking that it'll sell regardless. I need to carry my team and build connections with other artists in the industry. I can't be seen as the white culture vulture that only thinks about himself, using black culture to get himself on top, while leaving all his homies behind, taking more than giving back. People were constantly criticizing him, and M didn't want that image. I mean, this was around the time when the co-owner of the Source magazine, Benzino, released Eminem's racist tapes from back when he was a teen. And he was trying to create this narrative of M being a culture vulture like Elvis that uses black music for his financial gain while insulting and disrespecting them behind their backs. I mean, those tapes were from back when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And M was trying to convince everybody that he has changed, that he's part of the culture and will do everything he can to make it grow. And that's why he was trying to put on dozens of black artists, while also giving them some of his best beats. I mean, that was the right thing for him to do at the time, to win back some of the respect from his peers. He could have been more selfish and kept the beats for himself, because in the attempt of trying to win back the love and respect from the game, by making beats for Nas, Jay, 50, Game, his own team, he neglected his own career and ended up still losing respect from the game by dropping underwhelming albums. Because Encore really ruined his career and became the go-to album to discredit him and his legacy. See, didn't I tell you he ran out of shit to say? I mean, you can only kill your wife and bury your mother once. So now he's dropping trash music with corny accents because he doesn't know what to do. That's what they started saying. Encore became the face of whack albums. And they also said, see, he can do whatever he wants and he will still go diamond, even if he drops the wackest shit. That's white privilege right there. Further proof that he's not part of the culture. All of a sudden, you heard a million of these comments, while 2 years prior, he was on top of the world. And then we had the issue with the bootleggers. Due to fears of the album getting leaked again, M decided to release the album in the middle of the week, which means they only counted the first 3 days of the weekly album sales. So he officially only sold 710,000 copies in the first week, meaning in the first 3 days. And in the following week, he sold another 871,000 copies, meaning 1,582,000 copies in the first 10 days. Lower numbers than the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show in terms of first week sales. The album marked the decline of M's success. Due to parts of the album leaking online, he made some last-minute changes which ruined the project. I mean, he still sold over 17 million copies worldwide, but it definitely put an end to his legendary album run. Because he was dropping classic after classic 3 times in a row, and now all of a sudden he drops Encore, and people had mixed feelings about it. M and his team tried to market it as another classic in his discography. They didn't really want to accept the fact that it's a huge step backwards in his career and a drop in quality. Everyone was expecting him to come with another game-changing album. He had dropped a group album with D12 7 months prior called DWilkinsWorld, so he was once again on top. The shitstorm for Encore wasn't really that big when it dropped, because of course all the stands loved it. But after people had enough time to digest the album and compare it to his previous work, it was universally agreed upon that it's a flop and a misstep. M later explained why the album turned out the way it did by saying that 4 of the songs leaked online and he had to replace them with new ones, which he wrote in 25 to 30 minutes. I'm talking about the terrible 4-song run directly in the middle of the tracklist. Puke, My First Song, Rain Man, and Big Weenie. Terrible tracks, goofy and all over the place. The album ended up being more comedic and less serious than the previous ones. Although he did have...
Yeah, Encore was a good album, though. I don't know why people think it was a bad album. I don't get it, though. He has some few tracks in there. Like Toy Soldier, that's one of my favorite records. And Maj, when he took shots at George Bush. So, yeah, it's a good album. Ass Like That, it was kind of funny. Just Lose It. Yeah, I didn't know if that was he was making parodies because I guess Michael Jackson, he didn't like it, which I'm going to do a video on Michael Jackson versus Eminem, what happened. I'm going to go over their history. So, yeah, because Michael didn't like it one bit about the allegation with doing something with kids, though. So, yeah.
deep songs on it like Mockingbird and like Toy Soldiers, which are still some of his best songs to date. So this album is a mixed bag. It's like serving a nice ribeye steak with vomit on the side, on the same plate.
Ugh.
You can now either eat the steak by trying to ignore the vomit, meaning listen to the good songs on the album without focusing too much on the trash, or you can dip the steak in the vomit and let it ruin your entire eating experience, which is what most people chose to do. They discredit the entire album because of those few goofy tracks. But I don't blame him, because why the hell is there vomit on my plate?
Ugh.
The excuse is, oh, the vomit wasn't supposed to be on the plate. We just added it in the last second. We replaced the fries you ordered with vomit, because you already know what the fries taste like. Doesn't make any sense. I don't get why you would replace songs just because they got leaked. And then he put them on the deluxe version. So what was even the point? Me personally, I like my steak without vomit on it. But you do you. And sorry for the weird metaphor, but this guy literally has a song on here called Puke, and I'm still traumatized by it. He really thought it was a good idea to record himself puking. And this is another example of M making terrible artistic decisions. Cause the songs he scratched for those garbage tracks, Big Weenie, Rain Man, My First Song, and Puke, were leaked on a bootleg album called Straight from the Lab, released a year prior. And they were all superior to the songs he added in the last second. Monkey See, Monkey Do, We As Americans, Love You More, Cannabis, Bully, Come On In, and Haley's Revenge. He was afraid of the sales going downhill if he added those songs to the album. But replacing them with that garbage was a terrible idea. It caused more damage than releasing leaked songs could have ever done. Oh, and we also got confirmation that the song Brand New Dance, which landed on the album The Death of Slim Shady, would have also been on here if the actor Christopher Reeve hadn't died a month prior to the...
While studying abroad, I still do have schoolwork to do, like papers and assignments. So I'm currently in my third year.
release of Encore. That song was great too. What confuses me the most is that he had a long list of bangers in the vault that he didn't want to add to the album. The song When I'm Gone, for example, which is a top 10 M track recorded in 2003. It could have been on Encore, but he wanted to fill the album with trash, just to be funny. When I'm Gone was instead released a year later on the Greatest Hits album Curtain Call, together with his song Shake That featuring Nate Dogg. Why the hell did he exclude those bangers from Encore, but then put it on the Greatest Hits album? He had songs like No Apologies, which he recorded in 2002 for the Eminem show. He could have put it on here as well, but decided to put it on the Re-Up album 2 years later. Again, another timeless classic. And what upsets me even more is that he gave away his best songs while dropping garbage himself. Go back and check what M produced for other rappers around that time. And then imagine what would have happened if he kept those beats for Encore. Let's ignore Patiently Waiting with 50 Cent for a second. He gave Jay-Z the beat for Moment of Clarity, which is one of Jay-Z's best tracks in my opinion. M desperately needed a song like that on Encore, but he just gave it away as if it's nothing. As if Encore has too many bangers already, as if Moment of Clarity is disposable. Go to Sleep with DMX. He put it on the Cradle to the Grave soundtrack instead. And then for the Tupac Resurrection soundtrack, he produced 3 more amazing bangers. Ghost, One Day at a Time, and Runnin'. And then for Lloyd Banks, he produced On Fire, which is one of his best tracks. Ghetto Gospel for Tupac. And then for The Game, he produced We Ain't. And these are just a few. Why did you supply the entire game with bangers while making a mockery out of yourself with an album that people 20 plus years later still use to downplay your legacy? You have turned yourself into a meme and given your haters exactly what they wanted to discredit you. Instead of having a 4th classic, they started to exclude you from the GOAT conversation. Had Encore been another classic, then I'm pretty sure he would have a lot less haters these days. Because the album had potential. He was still technically in his prime. Because remember, this was during his beef with Ja Rule and Benzino. He was dropping classic diss tracks left and right during the whole recording process of Encore. He might have been overwhelmed with everything that was going on around that time. Plus the drugs, of course, and him being a humble guy that tries to not look like a culture vulture. Someone that just takes whatever he can, only caring about himself without giving back to others. But that wasn't what M was about. To this day, the guy is still signed to Dr. Dre. The most successful rapper of all time is still giving a large share of the money he makes to Dr. Dre. Every other artist Dre signed turned his back on him and moved on, including 50 Cent and Kendrick, just to make sure that the money that would have gone to Dre goes to them. But M is the only one who refuses to release a song without Dre getting a check for it. So I just find it funny when these people try to call him a culture vulture, in an attempt to discredit his whole legacy as if he's not one of the greatest to ever do it. But anyway, let's take a look at the track list. I will name all the tracks I like on here. Evil Deeds, Never Enough, which is a super underrated track with 50 Cent and Nate Dogg. Yellow Brick Road, Fire as Well, responding to all the racism accusations. Then we have Like Toy Soldiers, which is one of his best songs.
to that. Yellow Brick
Marsh
Road.
is dope too. Skip. Just Lose It, dope. Ass Like That is alright. I don't like the accent, but the song itself is enjoyable. Mockingbird, top 10 Eminem song of all time. Encore, Curtains Down, dope as well. Then we also have the bonus tracks on the deluxe. We As Americans, Love You More, Ricky Tikki Talk, all fire. But I still want to beat Eminem's ass for only putting them on the deluxe. They should have been on the actual album. People would have felt differently about this project without those trash songs he added in the last second. The majority of the listeners probably hasn't checked out the deluxe. Those songs are on the level of some of the tracks on the Eminem show. But yeah, the album is a mixed bag. The hate is justified, but people should stop pretending like there are no good songs on the album. The peaks on here are comparable to the ones on the Eminem show. But most rap fans these days will deny it. They think Encore is the worst album ever. So where do I put this album? Y'all will hate me for this, but it's a classic. S tier. Now, but seriously, the peaks on here, Mockingbird, Like Toy Soldiers, Never Enough, etc., are all S tier. There are also a lot of tracks that are A tier. Unfortunately, we also have D tier songs and also songs that are mid. The peaks are too high for me to just put it in C tier. Plus, I grew up with this album, so it means a lot to me. I witnessed that whole era as a kid. The whole beef with Michael Jackson on Just Lose It, seeing Mockingbird on MTV.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a beef between Michael Jackson and Eminem. It wasn't nothing too serious because Michael didn't really respond like a diss track back. So I don't know why he said it was a beef between Eminem and Michael Jackson. It was a beef. Michael didn't like the video depict of him though, because with the allegation was doing something with kids though. So yeah.
One of the saddest and most emotional tracks in hip hop history, Like Toy Soldiers, wrapping up all the beefs he had at the time, and then also showing Proof's death in the music video 2 years before he got shot and killed for real. Yellow Brick Road, responding to all the racism accusations from Benzino and The Source magazine. This album is indeed one of the most important ones in his discography. It's not one of those albums that you can just skip. The peaks are on prime Eminem level, but the lows are as low as you can go. It's more important, has better production and higher peaks than Infinite. If we would do something like a mini versus and compare the top 10 songs on both albums and put them against each other, then Encore would definitely win the comparison. Infinite only has 3 good songs, but none of them are top 50 in M's catalog, and the rest of the songs are mediocre. Encore gave us top 10 and top 20 tracks at least, and I'm the type to focus more on the positives of an album than the negatives, since to me it's all about adding songs to playlists and replaying my favorite songs in shuffle mode without having to force myself through an entire album. And Encore gives me more for my playlists. Infinite is completely skippable and has no relevance in M's discography, to the point that some people don't even view it as his debut album. They named the Slim Shady LP as his first one. So yeah, Encore's peaks are stronger than the entire Infinite album. It could have been so much better if he hadn't made those terrible last-minute additions, which really pisses me off since the peaks are stronger than anything he dropped afterwards. People think this is his worst album, but I disagree. It had much more character than most of the albums he dropped afterwards. Like Relapse, for example, released in 2009. I hated this one when it came out, just like everyone else I knew. This was the revival album of the 2000s, minus the internet backlash and the millions of videos online trashing him. a hated-on comeback album after a long hiatus. A lot of M fans today love it, but back then most people were trashing it. Nothing on here came close to the peaks of Encore. The best song on the album was a track from 2005, which he managed to complete by adding a third verse after getting clean 2 years later in '07. I'm talking about the song Beautiful.
I
It's
love
my
that
favorite
song.
one on the album, and it barely scratches Eminem's top 50. I actually hate most of the tracks on here, mainly because of the weird accents he's using. He actually re-released the album as Relapse Refill, with 27 songs in total. We have like 20 songs on here that are the definition of mid. I still hate them after all these years. The lows on this album might not be as bad as on Encore, but there are so many tracks on here that either put me to sleep or get zero reaction out of me. So it's like 4 trash songs on Encore versus 20 mediocre songs on Relapse. What is worse to you? The only songs I care about on this album are Bagpipes from Baghdad, We Made You, Beautiful, Crack a Bottle, and Forever. That's 5 songs out of 27. Forever ain't even a real album track. M just added it to make the album look less mid. The song is actually from the LeBron James More Than a Game documentary soundtrack. But yeah, the top 5 songs on Encore are better than the top 5 songs on Relapse. Same goes for the top 10. Sure, the lows on Encore are way worse than anything on Relapse.
We're told it's success.
But again, does it really matter when all you're trying to do is add bangers to your playlist and compile a top 100 songs list for an artist? I don't focus on the trash, I focus on the gold. And Encore did much more for me. It wouldn't change much for M if Relapse never existed, and I can live without it. Everything on here is forgettable, and the refill re-release didn't make it any better, cause M acts like the re-release saved the album. I had Encore over Relapse back in 2018, and most people disagreed with me. But M himself agreed that same year. If we're talking about what they artistically brought to the table and how they enhanced their discography, Relapse is completely skippable compared to Encore, because Encore is more important to Eminem's story. Nothing on Relapse is as meaningful for M's career or as dope as Mockingbird, Like Toy Soldiers, Never Enough, Yellow Brick Roads, and even Just Lose It, which is a better version of We Made You. We Made You is like a rip-off version. And I know a lot of Relapse fans will be upset about this, but I'm putting it in B tier behind Encore, and slightly above Infinite due to its having better production and actual hits.
I did realize it's a classic album, in my opinion, though. So I don't agree with what he put it there. So yeah.
Next we have Recovery, released a year later in 2010. This is the I know my last album was mid, but this one is better album. I mean, that's literally what he said on the single Not Afraid.
In fact, let's be honest, at last Relapse CD was aired, perhaps I ran the accents into the ground.
And indeed, this album does have stronger peaks than Relapse, and obviously less filler. I was still in my Eminem hate phase when this came out. Hated all the pop tracks on here, but I grew to appreciate them. The songs I like on here are Cold Wind Blows, On Fire, Not Afraid, No Love, Spacebound, and Love the Way You Lie with Rihanna. These are all stronger than what he did on Relapse. And the tracks are actually some of his biggest hits on YouTube. The rest is between mediocre and alright in my opinion. So it's not much of an upgrade. Don't care enough to go back to them. But you know, that's just me. I only listen to the best of the best. Don't care to listen to songs that are just alright. I only want to hear bangers with replay value. There's also too much yelling on here, and the beats are not good enough for a rapper of his caliber. This album features a large variety of different trap beats, and I still don't like most of the production on here. Plus, just like Relapse, it wasn't as personal as his previous albums. Nothing as heartfelt and deep, while at the same time sonically pleasing. But then again, it's all subjective. Some people absolutely love Recovery M, like all the YouTubers and corny white rappers. If you don't like Pop M, then this album might not be for you. I didn't like it either when it dropped, but now I appreciate some of it. The best songs on here may deserve a place in M's top 50. Then again, they're still too poppy for my taste. Spacebound and Love the Way You Lie especially. Just not the type of hip-hop I want to listen to. I'd rather listen to most of the tracks on Encore, as weird as it may sound to you. But that album has more character to me. It encapsulates more of the elements of Eminem I like. And it's closer to the distinct sound of Prime Eminem, which I fell in love with as a kid. Recovery Eminem is just harder to relate to. This album feels cold and soulless, robotic almost. Maybe I'm just blinded by nostalgia. A lot of Recovery fans will disagree with me, but Encore is superior. Next, we have Marshall Mathers.
Yeah, I think Recovery is a classic album. I was disappointed that he didn't do a Relapse 2 though, but so I did Recovery. But Recovery was a good album though. He has a good tracks in there I like. Not Afraid, No Love. Talking Myself, because Talking Myself, that was one of my favorite tracks. When he said he almost did Kanye West and Lil Wayne, because Kanye West and Lil Wayne was the hottest rappers at the time, because he felt like when he came back with Relapse, no one was going to care about him. So, yeah.
This LP2, released in 2013. I was still an Eminem hater when this came out. 09 till 2016, I was trashing everything this guy would drop, missing the old M, thinking that none of the music he was releasing at that time came close to his classics. But let's talk about the album. I remember Rap God being the biggest thing on the internet when it dropped. The music video reached 1 billion views on YouTube in no time. I actually enjoyed it when it came out. Of course, not as much as Prime M, but I had my hopes up for the album. The internet was going crazy, and when the album dropped, most people praised it, including almost everyone in my class. I was just about to finish school when it came out. But back in my neighborhood, most people didn't really mess with it. I grew up in the housing projects where it's mostly immigrants like my family and me. My classmates, on the other hand, were all suburban. I somehow managed to graduate from one of the most respected schools in my country, but I was obviously sticking out from everyone else. I mean, I was poor and they came all from rich families. They didn't really like the music I was listening to, and I didn't like their music either. So yeah, my classmates all loved the album, and I was the only one hating on it, arguing with them. He still had that robotic flow and delivery. And this time, he not only tried to have pop rap on his album, but also rap rock. So he was merging genres, just like on his previous album. And you guys know me, I prefer traditional hip hop. So I didn't like most of the singles. Survival, Berserk, The Monster, Headlights, but they did grow on me over time. But I also had an issue with his flow and cadence, sounding offbeat at times and robotic, trying way too hard to impress the listener with his rhyme schemes and wordplay, to the point where his flow and rhythm suffered from it, like on the song Bad Guy, for example, which was supposed to be a sequel to Stan. And that was a huge issue for me since I expected a banger on the same level as the first one. Stan is a top 3 Eminem song. Bad Guy ain't even top 100, and that's disappointing as hell. But again, the album did grow on me over time. So now I can enjoy songs like Legacy, Berserk, Rap God, The Monster, Headlights, Love Game with Kendrick. I mean, it's alright, but you would expect more from these two. They have like zero chemistry. And the rest of the songs are alright. Definitely more enjoyable than the average song on Recovery and Relapse. The album is nowhere near Prime M, but it's still solid. Maybe I'll change my opinion on it in the future, like with almost everything else I reviewed on this channel, but for now I have this one in A tier. Most tracks on here are just stronger and more enjoyable than the ones on Relapse and Recovery. And we did.
Yeah, so I gotta check out the Marshall LP too, because I have that coming for the album anniversary. So be a lookout for that though. So I'll probably give my opinion if that's a classic or not though. So I can't say if it's a classic or not though. So yeah.
Didn't get those awful tracks like on Encore either. Next album is Revival, released in 2017. I was ready to hate on it when it came out, mainly because I was tired of all the M stands on the internet treating every M album like it's on the level of Illmatic. Especially those videos and comments of them saying M is better than Pac and Nas because he can rap faster. I was tired of that nonsense. But then, for the first time ever, I actually saw a huge shitstorm on the internet before the album even came out, and tons of hate in M's direction right when the tracklist got released. So I thought, oh wow, maybe this time we can listen to the album like normal people, instead of immediately overpraising it the second it drops. And when it came out, I listened to it a couple of times not knowing what to think. This was the 4th album in a row from M that I didn't like. And this time it seemed like not even the stands can defend it. Most tracks on here are pure garbage. But I have to say, the last 2 tracks...
Yeah, most people said this was Eminem's worst album. I mean, he had a good few tracks that I like. I think Castle, that was one of my favorite. We talk about Haley, his ex-wife Kim, his mom. So when he took shots at Donald Trump. So, yeah. So he had a good few tracks in there. But the album, it was bad. Most people said Ruben was responsible of the garbage route with Revival. Everybody shit on that. I remember when this album came out. People would shit on that and say, this is the worst album ever. Emma fell off, all that. So yeah.
Tracks kinda brought back the love I had for M in my childhood. I grew up with an Eminem that was vulnerable and spoke straight from the heart about his own weaknesses, insecurities, mistakes, and demons. And he could put everything in a song and make you feel it. Music with tons of replay value. He was able to dive into every personal aspect of his life, could speak on topics that most MCs would never rap about, since most people don't want to expose parts of their lives that they're not comfortable with. And especially in hip hop, you don't want to seem vulnerable. Nobody wants to give their enemies, haters, and critics ammo to hit you where it hurts the most. M was always praised for his ability to make those kind of songs. But after his hiatus in the mid-2000s, he had kinda evolved into this stone-cold, emotionless, robotic rap god. Someone that you just can't relate to, even though he was always known for being relatable. So I couldn't connect with him as a fan anymore. Was always used to hearing personal stories from him. But it seemed like his new music was all about trying to convince people how lyrical he is.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't.
How fast he can rap, how complicated his rhyme schemes are, while forgetting about everything else that matters, and losing his artistic soul in the process. But now, after about a decade of me hating on him, I was finally able to feel his music again. Cause Castle and A Rose are more or less like apologies and explanations on what happened during that hiatus. He talks about the time when he overdosed on drugs in '07, and also apologizes to Haley in a goodbye note, breaking down all the things she and her family had to go through around that time when he overdosed. His music hadn't been this deep and emotional since the song When I'm Gone. The song Castle ends with him saying goodbye to Haley and then overdosing in his bathroom. The story then continues in the next song, A Rose. He's laying in the hospital bed and cataloging his thought process in what could have been his dying moments, talking about Proof's death, his daughter, brother, mother, and all the milestones that he would have missed had he truly passed in '07. And at the end of the song, the beat switches back to Castle, and he continues the theme of rewinding the tape, flushing down the pills and thanking the nurses for saving his life, talking about all the accomplishments he had after the incident, saying that he's glad that his story didn't end there. He put all those painful memories into those two songs, and it was executed perfectly. Not just the concept, but also sonically. These two songs really made me quit being a hater, at a time when everyone was hating on him. And I don't blame them. Out of 19 tracks, I can barely find 5 that are worth revisiting. Walk on Water wasn't strong enough. I like the concept, storytelling, and lyrics, but sonically it's missing something. Believe is actually one of my favorites on this album. Once again showing himself from his emotional, insecure, and introspective side, instead of trying to be the emotionless, robotic rap god M that spits a million bars per second. He's rapping about not knowing where he should go artistically, not knowing how much more he can give his fans, thinking that he already gave them everything. He's doubting himself, not knowing if he still got it. And he's unsure how far he can go before people start saying that he fell off. He still used that robotic flow on here, but it somehow worked. Chloroseptic was dope, but the remix, which he dropped after receiving all the backlash, puts the song to shame. Because you can hear the anger and passion in the remix, while this one features his weird robotic flow. And he's not saying anything important here, just flexing his wordplay. The remix is a response to all the backlash, and it works. Untouchable was alright. I like the second part more than the first. Then we get a whole bunch of trash. Framed was dope, and I know most people find the hook annoying, but it didn't bother me. And then we get more trash songs until we reach In Your Head, which I personally enjoyed a lot, addressing all his regrets throughout his career on a great sample. So yeah, not everything on this album is trash, like most people say. But then again, none of these songs are top 100 material in M's catalog. Except Castle and A Rose, of course. They did have an impact on me, since they got me out of my hater phase. That being said, the album as a whole doesn't deserve to be higher than C tier. Kamikaze was a crazy album. He dropped it out of nowhere when the entire game was busy criticizing him for revival.
Yeah.
Saying that he should just retire and that he should never be mentioned in the same sentence as some of the other goals of the...
Yeah, Kamikaze, I think that's one of my favorite M albums. Just him, Dr. Dre, working together. He called like everybody out. I like this a lot, though, because he's like, fuck it. Y'all trash me for the Revival album. I'm going to call y'all who said it was bad or who I think I fell off or anything like that. So, yeah. So, be on the lookout for that, because I'll be coming out this month, August 31st. So, be on the lookout for that.
This culture. Revival also made people become more critical of his older albums, especially the younger generation. It really damaged his career and status in the game. The backlash was just mind-blowing. Kamikaze came out in summer 2018 and caught us all by surprise, because it only took him 8 months to come back from that misstep. He needed 4 years for Revival and only 8 months for this one. I woke up to some new music thinking that he rushed a half-assed project, just to save his reputation and undo the damage. I was worried thinking that he just added another misstep to his legacy, but most people actually liked it. He started dissing the whole rap game and critics. I actually dropped a video on this which had like 17 million views, before YouTube made me take it down just like all my other compilation-style videos in 2022. I lost like 200 videos with 350 million views in total, but you can still check them out on my second channel. But anyway, this album really lacks replay value. I enjoyed it a lot when it came out, but now I don't really go back to all these tracks. I really like The Ringer, Greatest, Lucky You, even though I'm not much of a fan of Joyner Lucas anymore. And Stepping Stone was another song that was needed. It was about his rap group D12, and how he quote-unquote abandoned them after Proof's passing in '06. Like I said earlier, I really appreciate his more personal songs. Songs with substance, songs that have purpose and meaning. And they of course also have to sound dope. I was waiting for him to talk about D12, the group I grew up listening to. Just like how I waited for a song to wrap up the whole thing about the 5-year hiatus after Encore. Those are important moments in his career that needed to be addressed. I needed some heartfelt songs from him to close those chapters. And he did that with songs like Castle, A Rose, and Stepping Stone. Those songs serve a purpose and are an integral part of his legacy post-Encore. All the lyrical miracle stuff where he's showing off is just a cherry on top. I also think that this album is lacking hits. You could say Venom is the biggest hit on here, but a lot of people hate on it due to the hook. I personally enjoyed it. Fall and Not Alike were great too. Loved all the disses on the album. He was definitely more hungry on here than on the last one. I also wish that he had added Killshot on here as a bonus track. Some rappers do that to boost their album streams. It would have been a great addition. But yeah, songs I don't like on here are Normal, Kamikaze, Nice Guy, and Good Guy, meaning about 1/3 of the album. 2 tracks on here are skits, so I like 7 out of 11 songs. But none of the songs on here are worth being in M's top 50. That's why I would say Marshall Mathers LP 2 is superior. The top 5 songs on that album are just better.
I'm a 27-year-old transgender woman, Miami Wolf.
I also think that the peaks on Encore are stronger, but you have to get through more trash and mediocre songs in order to get to the good ones. I would say Kamikaze is a weak A tier, and Encore is a strong B.
Do y'all think Kamikaze is the classic album? I think Kamikaze is a classic album, in my opinion, though. I think it is, though. 'Cause I think that's M's best work, in my opinion, though.
tier. Next, we have Music to be Murdered by Side A and B, released in 2020. I will treat both releases as 2 parts of the same album as it was intended, which means we got 30 songs and 6 skits on here, 36 tracks in total. There are 2 ways to rate an album that's this long. You can either judge it as a whole from front to back, which means that you would punish artists for making albums longer than 15 to 20 tracks, as it's impossible to stay consistent for 36 tracks straight, or you can judge it based on the high-quality songs the album provides for your playlists, so that you can rate it based off how much the album does for you long-term, without being hung up on tracks that are not meant for you, and are not your cup of tea. Because artists who make albums this long obviously try to add a wide variety of sounds and styles, due to them not wanting to bore the listener with one-dimensional albums while having a mixed audience with different expectations. What's the point of being hung up on tracks that weren't meant for you, when there are a whole bunch of other songs that are more to your taste? With 36 tracks, you can create your own Music to be Murdered by playlist, with only songs that you enjoy, and it will still have the length of a full album. M tried to make songs for different types of audiences, while experimenting with different song concepts. It feels more like a compilation of songs than an actual album. So deducting points just because not every song targets that one audience group that you are in is just unfair. That's why I always tend to use the second approach when rating and ranking longer albums. I mainly focus on songs that I actually like. How many of them make my playlists? And how much does the album for me personally? Which might be my favorite track on the album. We also have Unaccommodating with
Yeah, Music Murder by Everybody, that was a good album. I'm not gonna say it was a bad album. He had some few tracks I like. The song we did with Young M.A., I like her verse though, man. She did a phenomenal job though. I hope Eminem and Young M.A. do another song together though. Cause those two guys, I won't say they had good chemistry, but they did a good track together though. I really hope they do another track together though. So Music Murder by Everybody, I don't know if I consider that a classic, cause Eminem stands, they think this is a classic. I don't want to go that far though, but I don't know. I gotta really think about it. I gotta go revisit to the album. See if it's a classic album. But do y'all think Music Murder is a classic? Let me know, guys, in the comments. You think that's a classic?
With Young M.A., you're gonna learn with Royce, Godzilla with Juice WRLD, Darkness, Yaw Yaw with Royce, Black Thought and Q-Tip, Lock It Up with Anderson .Paak, I Will with Slaughterhouse minus Joe Budden. Then on the B-side, Black Magic, Alfred's Theme. Y'all can hate me for this, but the song is...
Yeah, Eminem did a lot of people on this album. He did Lord Jamar once again. Did Nick Cannon, Machine Gun Kelly. Who else he did? Who else? Joe Budden, Snoop. Because I was surprised on Zeus when he did Snoop. I was like, what the hell did Snoop do to him? When he did that press cover, he said that he could live music without something like that, though. So yeah.
Seed. Book of Rhymes, Favorite Bitch, Guns Blazing with Dr. Dre, Gnat and Zeus. 15 tracks. My own version of Music to be Murdered by. I do admit though, I haven't been going back to these tracks in a while. The album does lack replay value compared to his old music. Nothing on here is on the level of Prime M. No song deserves to be in his top 50. But again, there's a whole album worth of good tracks on here. I mean, I just gave you 15 songs. So I'll put it in A tier. Now the question is it better than MMLP2? The peaks on that album were far stronger than on this album. But Music to be Murdered by gave me more songs that I enjoy. So it's quality versus quantity. I can't say that Music to be Murdered by is more important for M's discography than MMLP2. Erasing the sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP would do more damage to M's career than erasing this one. But it's definitely superior to Kamikaze. So I'm putting this in A tier behind MMLP2. Man, cut the video. Look at this shit. The video's not even over and I'm disagreeing with the list already. Let's add another tier so we can improve the ranking. Revival can move down to D tier. Recovery, Relapse, and Infinite can go down to C. I can't put all these albums above Encore, man. My heart and soul is telling me that I'm making a big mistake. There is no Eminem song released after his hiatus that is better than Mockingbird, like Toy Soldiers, Never Enough, Just Lose It, Yellow Brick Road, and of course When I'm Gone, which was supposed to be on the album. Then we also have songs like We as Americans and Love You More, and they all have way more soul in them than anything he dropped afterwards. Back then it seemed like every album had a deeper meaning and concept behind it. You gave them the Eminem show and now you're doing a final performance before going off stage. Or in Eminem's case, killing the character Slim Shady and taking the audience with him. And I always felt like part of Eminem died with that album. There is a reason why people even started this whole new Eminem versus old Eminem conversation. His old shit just had so much depth, soul, and character. And Encore was supposed to be the grand finale. He wanted to end his career with that album. What's the saying?
If you have a child, 12 or older, and you like for them to get into the best university possible, I have something big.
But anyway, let's move on to his latest album, The Death of Slim Shady, released this year in 2024. On first listen, I thought the album was just alright. There was nothing really that stuck out to me aside from the song Houdini, which I loved. It was nostalgic and brought back a lot of memories from my childhood. I still remember when they first played the music video to the song Without Me on MTV. I even saw the making of. MTV used to have those shows with exclusive behind-the-scenes footages, and I used to watch them all the time. So seeing the music video to Houdini and then also the making of brought back a lot of memories and made me feel like a kid again. The whole concept of Slim Shady coming back is perfect in my opinion, because it also brought back some of the things we loved about Prime Eminem. The album kept getting better and better for me with every listen. Haven't had this feeling ever since he dropped Encore. Encore was like the last Eminem album I had on repeat. This album is like a continuation of the story of the Eminem I grew up with, while all the other albums since Encore feel like side quests. Relapse, Recovery, MMLP2, Revival, Kamikaze, Music to be Murdered by. Those albums lack the elements that made Prime Eminem so great. The voice filters and concepts Eminem used on this album really gave you the feeling that the Eminem that died.
Okay, so yeah, I'll pause that part. So yeah, so I'm gonna get my thoughts about it. I mean, Eminem, he got some good classic albums. So people discredit, say, "Oh, Eminem don't have a classic album." He does. These are the classics I think it's a classics to me. Because I'm gonna do my own list. I'm gonna do mine on Eminem's birthday. So I'm gonna revisit all the albums though. So I think the Slim Shady LP is a classic. The Marshall LP is a classic. The Eminem Show, Encore. I don't know if I consider that a classic. I don't know. I got to revisit that album. Relapse a classic. Recovery is a classic. Marshall LP2. I got to revisit that album if I consider that classic. Revival, I don't think that's a classic. I'm sorry. If Eminem Stan think that's a classic, y'all delusional. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be biased. That's not me. I'm a fan of Eminem. I respect what he's done, but I'm not gonna be able to say, oh, that's a classic. What else? What was the other album he did after Revival? Kamikaze. I think Kamikaze album classic. Music Murdered by. I don't know sure about Music Murdered by. I gotta revisit that album. The Death of Slim Shady. I think that is gonna be a classic. Cause I like the album. I think that's Eminem's best work since Recovery. So yeah, so Eminem does got some good classic albums. So I did gotta revisit some of Eminem's musics. So I got those coming because I'm gonna do my list of Eminem's albums, rank them. So be on the lookout for those because I'll be coming on Eminem's birthday on October 17th. So that's the video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. Which album you think is your favorite Eminem album of all time? Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.